Hi, my name is Juan, and welcome to The Couch, a podcast where real therapists talk about real things. Please remember that we are therapists, but we are not your therapists, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only. Social media and mental health. So here's the question: friend or foe? As a counselor myself, whether it's patients that I sit with at times or staff at Santos Counseling, some of the other counselors, they'll share with me. This topic of social media is getting bigger and bigger, larger and larger. So I thought it'd be neat to do an episode on it. Hopefully it's helpful, short, direct, to the point. We're looking at, is it a friend? Is it a foe? Social media, that balance, how does it impact our mental health? Does scrolling actually help you relax? Or do you feel just drained? Just like that was a documentary on, is it a Disney Plus, Drain the Oceans? It's like, nah, man, I feel drained afterwards. Well, let's look at that social media impact on mental health, because there's a lot of different sides, a lot of different lenses from it. Social media. Let's focus on a little bit of that mental health impact. And when I mean social media, I mean picking up your phone, getting on YouTube, watching something on a tablet. So some of the items that we could look at as far as social media hurting mental health is the ongoing scrolling and how that impacts your mood. There's some neat research that talks about that dopamine, that high you get from consistently going from scrolling from one to another, moving from one platform to another platform, or YouTube video one from another, right? So you could see how that potentially could be a negative. The other aspect could be where in your real world, we'll say, the physical world, you've got some challenging relationships. So then you dip into your social media where you look for something. Maybe you put a picture of yourself, but what you're really looking for is that dopamine, and you're wanting somebody to hit that like. You're wanting somebody to put a little heart on there, to comment something nice. So then the big question comes, are you seeking something here? Are you struggling with external relationships on that physical world? And then those can bring into attention of, is social media a friend here? Is it a foe? Another aspect to look at of signs that it's hurting your mental health is your sleep. If you aren't sleeping well, if you get in bed and it's 11 o'clock and then you move over and you grab your phone, and now it's 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and then you're moving around the next day going, I just can't sleep. Well, it's a question you can't sleep, or it's a question now that using this tech device, right, is taking place of sleep. And there's, again, plenty of studies there that really go into how the light impacts your eyes. It goes into the wake cycle, the sleep and wake cycle, your circadian rhythm. Overall, when it comes from that mental health lens, that's something I really encourage people to look at, that impact on sleep. Signs it's affecting your health. Procrastination. So this one I see not only individuals with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, I also see this in individuals where they may have something to do. So it could be that you have some shit to do, important stuff. If you did a to-do list, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things to do. And then you look at it and you go, yeah, but I'm going to go check out these funny YouTube videos, or I'm going to go scroll through social media. And the next thing you know, 1 minute becomes 5, 5 becomes 30 minutes. Hey, we know the game. We've done it. Heck, I've done it. And this is called procrastination, right? This could even be avoidance. This could be a bit of that dopamine we just talked about, seeking a pleasure activity versus doing the ones that are important. And then what happens? We know what happens. We know that the list of 5 now becomes a list of 6. And then what happens after that is you look at 6 and you feel overwhelmed and stressed and burned out. And you look at what's to blame. And sometimes it's hard to really see that. It's those hidden patterns, those impulses that we engage in. You're thinking, all right, dude, you talked about some of the signs is affecting my mental health, but can't be all that bad. And you are right. There are a lot of really positives of social media. I mean, heck, right now I'm on a podcast. This could in a way be considered an aspect of social media. And what's the positive aspect? There's connection, learning, inspiration. We're able to get behind here. I'm recording this. I'm bringing it to you. I love doing it. There's enjoyment in doing it. Right? So this could be a pro so far. So mental health is not impacted. However, if we keep going and I've got other engagements to do, I got to hang out with my kids, my wife, friends, a bunch of other shit, right? Other stuff to do. What if I dip out on all of that? What if I stop doing all of that and I stay here the whole day? And what if you, listening to this, you go from this podcast and then you jump to another podcast and then now you're getting like this high of energy and you're learning and you're like, oh my God, I'm learning about social media, mental health, and what to keep an eye out for. And then I'm going to learn about this and learn about that. We want to keep an eye on those spaces, those wheels, right? Because if we stay in those wheels spinning and spinning and spinning and we don't come out, how is the rest of our life going to get impacted? We want to look at what to do. So we know that there's signs that social media can affect our mental health. And that could be that scrolling over and over. Maybe even one we didn't touch on was the anxiety that sometimes people will feel with the aspect of likes and follows. I see this a lot in young kids. I see this a lot too in adults where, they're posting something and we're in a session and they tell me, I can tell that somebody liked it and didn't like it. And then I go, how do you feel about that? That this person liked your picture and then they took the like off. Next thing you know, we're in a 15-minute conversation. And then from that, I pull away and I go, here's a wheel with a bunch of feelings on it. Point to the one that connects to this experience of the like. And then they'll point to anxiety. And then we keep going in that. And I bring this to your attention because I like for you to reflect on it. How do you see likes and follows? When people, come with you, right, in your community online, and they're commenting, how does that impact your anxiety? Just something to think about. There should be some awareness there. Practical strategies. Most devices have a little neat thing on there for your screen time limit. I like using it. I remember, this is a funny story. I was with a relative and they were just talking smack. I mean, they were talking so much junk about one of the younger kids in the family who was always on their device. So then I said, let's do something together. Let's all pull our phones out and go to your screen time. How much screen time are you using? And this adult, they were like at 9+ hours. They were just putting in the work. If that was a full-time job, they were hitting overtime hours. So we had a good familial, if you will, laugh and all that good stuff around there. For them, it was helpful. For all of us, it was helpful. For me, it was helpful. My hours were too high too. I was like, what am I doing? And hopefully what you're noticing is too, it's helpful to have a sense of humility with it, instead of avoidance, denial, humility of, I got to work on this too. I know for me, I got to work on this. I personally like tech. Like I enjoy, getting on an app and then seeing the cool things that it has, or, when a new AI comes out, those things are interesting and fun. Having this screen time device that lets you, app that lets you know how much time you're spending, it's a really soft and neat way to put some parameters in there. Another practical tool that you could use is you could curate your feed. So in social media apps, you could look at what you're following. So at times you're going to get a bunch of random stuff because of the algorithm. However, if you're able to curate it where maybe it's just educational items, as an example, that may make that time a bit more constructive. So an example of that would be if you use Pinterest. What would it be like if you use Pinterest for DIY home projects versus for everything? Like, would you then go into it with a different approach, a bit more constructive? And then if so, awesome. right now you're approaching that area in a different manner, perhaps a bit more constructive than the other approach. All right, so let's take a step away from this. Social media isn't all bad, right? There's a lot of great aspects to it, a lot of connection you can have with individuals, get to know other people, etc. The item that we want to look at is the relationship that you have with it, right? The relationship that you have with it. If you're up at 2 a.m. on on Facebook, on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it may be, what type of relationship is that? And this is kind of neat here if you look at it too. Relationships, in essence, are, we'll use the example of two people that call each other out and support each other to grow. Of course, call each other out in a healthy way, and then support each other to grow collectively and individually in a healthy way. So if you have your device and you're up at 2 a.m, it looks like there's not really a help there in growth or even in calling the other one out. Because in that aspect, if we said your device was an actual person, maybe that person would say, hey, leave me alone. I'm trying to sleep. It's 2 a.m. Or, hey, it's 2 a.m. We should both be sleeping so we can feel energized tomorrow. Now, of course, your device is not going to do that because at this point, right, they're not talking back to us in that manner. But that's just something to think about, where you can play with the idea that if this device had a bit more of a humanistic voice. And it was interesting because I was having this conversation with somebody else, and they were like, that's funny because what if your device did that to you during the day? And they were telling me how during the day they'll have their phone in their pocket and they just take it out randomly. And I was like, me too. And I bet so many listening to this go, yeah, me too. You probably take your phone out all the time where you look at it. No one's texted, no one's called, but you still look at it. What if that was like a person, and the person at some point said, leave me alone, stop touching me every minute. I'll let you know when there's something here. And there was a bit more humor to it, but that was a bit eye-opening because you can see the impulsivity that can come with devices. You almost do it without thinking. And then it could be damaging to mental health because it could remove you from the here and now, the present moment, enjoying what's in front of you, the people around you, the smell of the air, maybe a walk. I want you to sit on that, think on it. Today's episode was supposed to be short and sweet, to the point, on social media and mental health. I'll be sure to in the future go much more into the weeds of the intricacies and aspects of that relationship between social media, mental health, all the way from kids to adults. As always, if you found the episode helpful, share it with a friend. Jump on the reviews. Let us know how you are enjoying the podcast. All right, my friends, enjoy today.